Man, God's first creation, father, son, uncle, brother, on a journey of highs and lows.
Good morning. I really don't know what's going on there. But let's go once again.
Man, God's first creation, father, son, uncle, brother. On a journey of highs and lows, you were created in the image of God and given dominion in the earth, destined for great things and to fulfill purpose. Join us on Men on Monday as we discuss all issues related to men. We are unifying family, building you, building strong families, building strong futures. Join us on Men on Monday.
Well, good morning to everyone. I really don't know what's happening. We're just having one. So God be the glory. I don't know what's going on this morning. I don't know what's going on there. Welcome. We just say welcome. Healthy Cottage telling you come and visit them. That's what they're trying to tell you. Come and visit them. And so we want to welcome all of you to our live show this morning. Welcome to um, Pastor Edison Bino, Minister Sinclair Brown, and also to Bishop Mark Haywood, who is now joining us. I don't know what's going on here this morning. I really don't know what's going on here. Devil is a liar. So welcome to our show today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah. So how are you guys doing? How was your weekend?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Marissa. Good morning, all those who are watching the program. I had a good weekend. Again, powerful Sunday. Just spending time, a bit of time with the family and so on. So I would say I had a great weekend.
Good, good, good. Minister Sinclair.
Well, I am basically recovering from serious back pain, but I had back pain last week, so I was hard ears and I went out and started work before it was cured. So I now have to take a week off. So yes, so I'm now doing the same thing that I'm gonna be telling my clients: rest yourself. So it's hard. So,
As they say,
so that's
rest
what
is
I'm doing.
productivity too, right?
Oh dear, Father, help me.
Yeah. So rest is productivity. Bishop Mark, how was your
The
weekend?
weekend was rather busy, but other than that, I survived it. I just want to say to Mr. Sinclair, you know how hard it is. You went here, you know what people say. You can go off field, buddy. But yeah, I
I
think that
told my clients about that. So yes,
yeah,
I'll
yeah. So you
definitely
need to
share that.
follow. You need to follow your own advice, sir.
Yes, please.
It's difficult, but yeah, you like me, like to move around all the time.
So there you heard the exploits of the gentleman this weekend. Welcome to all. Today we continue our session on Teach Me to Love, and it's all about intimacy. Today on this 21st day, we're looking at compatibility versus chemistry. Do you have it? What really is compatibility? What is chemistry? And we're going to be looking at all of that. And just to recap for you, remember last week and the week ahead, we had Minister Sinclair share with you about the different types of intimacy. And understanding the different types of intimacy help you to understand the nature of your relationship and also maybe the areas that you need to improve. So today we are going to be starting off with talking about what is compatibility and what is chemistry. Bishop Edison Bino, let's start off with you. What is compatibility? What is chemistry?
All right. Good morning again. This is going to be very interesting because I've been learning some stuff through the program. But in terms of chemistry, no, let me start with compatibility. Compatibility has to do with two people being able to get along in different areas. So your values are similar. You have similar priorities, similar preferences, a couple different areas that you can have compatibility in. You can have compatibility in your fundamental beliefs. In your values and your fundamental beliefs and your preferences and in your life priorities. So the point here is that if you're too dissimilar, then it's going to present some challenges for the relationship. Chemistry, which a lot of people experience sometimes when they first meet somebody and they like them and the body likes them, that is the emotional connection between two people. Yeah, so some people will have chemistry. So when people talk about they're in love, or you get those fireworks, they talk about the fireworks and how they feel, the fuzzy feeling that they have when they're around the person, and how they always want to be with the person, that type of thing. That's the chemistry that kicks in. Yeah, so we are going to look at the fact that relationships need both, but sometimes they don't have both. Sometimes they have none. Sometimes they only have a little bit of one, a little bit in the next. Sometimes they have, a lot of one and a little bit in the net. So you can have a couple different combinations, and it can have a real effect on the relationship. So that's it for me, just to give a basic definition.
Right. So there we have it. Liking that. Understanding what is compatibility and what is chemistry. Because I think people often mistake chemistry for compatibility and compatibility for chemistry, not understanding which one. I think both are necessary. Let's get real. You don't want to be in a relationship with someone you don't have any chemistry with, especially a romantic relationship. Chemistry is definitely necessary. But beyond chemistry, which can be sometimes short lived, you need to have the compatibility element. Can we get along? And it all goes back to what we were discussing earlier. These aspects right here, understanding that you need to have the intimacy on these levels to ensure that compatibility can last, that more than just the fleeting moment that you may experience. So, Minister Sinclair, go ahead. You want to jump in right there? Let's go.
I was going to hand off to Bishop Mark.
All right, go on, Bishop Mark. Go on, go on.
So the back affecting the mind, or
Or making the mouth or something.
yeah. Well, I term the two things in one is more what we call surface, because you need some kind of chemistry to connect, right? Um, for example, there are things that you might like in a person. Sometimes you don't even intend to get into anything with them, but as you connect with them and so on, certain things connect you to that person. You might like it, the way they smile. They tend to flow with some of these things that you flow with, and that kind of thing. So the chemistry really is that thing that will, well, maybe not that deep, is more surface, and which would actually draw the persons together. But it's like you see a car, a nice car, and it got all the grip and everything, but then you have to now get into the mechanics of the car. So the for me, the compatibility now is the engine. That's the thing that can drive the relationship, especially when the relationship is challenged with whatever problems that might arise, where differences of opinion might come about, where the individuals then start to having the chemistry, having connected them, they now start to see exactly what the other person is, what the other person gives, what how the attitude, whether the person is laid back, whether the person is excitable, and those kind of things. So the compatibility now is where that's the engine. That is where now you seek to not only deal with the romance, but now deal with the deeper issue of love, where now when the problems come, the love, and I know sometimes we misunderstand love because we think love is sex or love is like, But when we get into the real concept of love, of not just the sex, but the friendship and all of that, that is where then the problem, or really rubber hits the road. And I think that is where the major problems come. Everybody like the romantic part. Oh, she's so nice. I believe this of God. I love her lips. I love his muscles. I love his nose. All kinds of stuff. But then when it's to hold hands and walk through the relationship, that is where the problem comes.
Oh, I think that Bishop Mark gave me my brains some juices there, my brother.
I'm glad I could help. I'm glad I could help. I've always been doing that for you, haven't I?
Yeah, have you? Yes, please. So, quoting from what he just said, just so we can understand, and I like the difference between the chemistry and the compatibility. Because many of us can meet a person, see them, like them, and you always, having that thing when you see them. You can't make that up. You can't choose that. That is something that exists. It either exists or it doesn't exist. Okay, and if you ever had three people in your life they had that chemistry with, you've done well. Because there's somebody who just hit that spark. It just, you cannot explain it. It's just there. You unite, and there's this boom. It happens, right? So Bishop Mark, using his analogy, you have a car. You look at it, and it looks nice. You like what shape, the color, the lines, everything. It makes you go like you just look at that car all day long. But then there's the engine, the mechanics of it, the anatomy of the car, the function of the car. And I like when you use that as the compatibility. Is the car compatible with me? Like for instance, I tell people like right now, even my back pain, you have to look at getting a different vehicle because M61 and I got a sedan, I got a squeezer pain, I over 250, 260 pounds. I mean, I got personally the foolish car, not foolish car, sorry, good car. But it's not compatible with me, if you understand. It did its job, but it's not compatible. I made a man vehicle now. Right? So it's not compatible with my physiog and likewise. The thing about when you look at the fuel now, when we talk about love language, the fuel is the love languages. We talk about the love languages and all those things. It is very good to then understand the love languages. So they all work together. And that's why many times our relationships, as Bishop Mark talked about, the rubber hitting the road, many of us are stuck. You know what I mean? Because we talk about the engine not working or somewhere in that compatibility. Like we look at the intimacy, we look at six, and there are more, but those are the six major ones we look at. Some even down to five. But there's those things, and the personality differences. All those are things that you look at. We talk about people that fuse together. So there are couples that I have met that I'm telling 90% compatible, 95% compatible. I mean, like they hit it like boom, 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 boom. Like I tell people, my wife and I, we're about 30% compatible. Yeah. So it means that the less compatible you are, the meaning more work you have to do. Right. So it's
So
not saying
how
that
does since you're saying that, how does because I'm thinking many people are saying, how do I understand our compatibility level? Because you've just stirred some juices in some person's minds who are saying, but we're together. How do I know that he and I will
well,
work
what the
together? How
indicators
do I...
are, I mean, what the major indicators are, if you can be yourself with a person, like legitimately, if you can't be you, if you can't be yourself, I mean, not talking about damage self, but we're talking about being yourself and being comfortable with yourself, a person being comfortable with you. Maybe we could go places together that we both find interesting and we like, you know what I mean? Because you might be a person that like to go out and there's a person that like to stay home. There's gonna be an issue there, legitimately. Although you love each other, like each other, we have the same ethics, we love the same Holy Spirit, like the word. But you may be a person that likes to go out on the weekends and birthdays and stuff, and the person likes to stay home and like to do small intimate situations. And that's one of the reasons we always talk about marriages for mature people. Because there's some things you may never get because of a difference in compatibility. And some people actually do something called trauma bonding. That's one of the things with chemistry that is very dangerous because you could bond with a person, but it be through your pain or through your trauma. So you might connect with a person like, and a lot of people connect through their hurt. You understand? And they can figure like, yeah, boy, we got this chemistry, and that's where they can't get away from them. The relationship is awful, it's horrible, it's toxic, it's crazy. But it going, as Bishop said, is more surface. But because they don't want to let go of this chemistry and this connection through trauma, they're compulsive givers and compulsive takers find each other in a crowd. You know what I mean? People that have been abused find each other in a crowd. It's very spiritual, and that'll be another in-depth conversation. But there's also something called if you're healed. Sorry, you could joy with a person in your healing, and this person helps you promote you to be healed. And there's some people that keep you in your trauma. Some people are attracted to people that are in the same trauma as them. And the last thing is that you could be actually with someone who you are fully compatible with, but they're not compatible with you. And that's a one-way compatibility. Because they could be with the person is fully feel like, oh, this is the best relationship ever. But this other person now, in the opposite end, they don't want it because they're not getting all the needs that they need in that particular relationship. And this is where, once again, and you hear me for when it's all the time, where counseling comes in. Because counselors are more than the barbershop conversation. They are looking at things from an analytical
Mhm.
perspective.
Because this is really heavy stuff, because I'm sure there are persons who are in relationships and they're saying, you know, again, compatibility is really the longevity of the relationship, as Bishop Mark said. This is where you recognize your personality traits. Can you be yourself with that person, as Minister Sinclair said? These are the elements that persons need to look for. So how does a person know that, can I be with myself? You said, because as you said, some people don't even know what their authentic self is, you know so how does a person know that, okay, I'm with this person, I can be myself with this person? um Even in some marriages, I'm sure there's some people who are not their authentic self with their spouses, that they're still very much, putting on, or giving way to such airs that, I can't let him see me, I can't let her see this, these kind of things. So how do you recognize the compatibility level for someone now, saying, especially if they missed Bishop Edison's introduction on what compatibility is and what chemistry is? How do they know which one they have and which one they need to work on? Whichever you guys gonna answer, Bishop Mark.
Well, let me jump in here for a little bit and then let the wisdom of Bishop Mark prevail, because I know Bishop Mark will have some wonderful insight to share. But with couples, right? For me, a lot has to do with the level of differences and disagreements and conflicts. What are we fighting over? Because many times what we're fighting over is an indication where we have differences. Are we fighting over the finances? Are we fighting over personality, in terms of there are certain things that I want. I'm introverted, you're extroverted, and we fight. So for me, I think looking at how people fight, looking at the areas that they fight over, looking at the disagreements, looking at the conflicts, that can give some indication, because the person is dissatisfied, and the areas in which you are dissatisfied could be a clue to the differences between you and that individual. It may indicate that you are not compatible in certain areas. So for me, it's looking at that as a starting point.
Well, Marissa, you drop some heavy stuff in our laps, because there are a number of things that we have to look at in relation to this. One, you're correct. A lot of people sometimes get into, and like what St. Chris said just now, that a lot of times the birds of a feather flock together. In other words, you connect to that person out of your mutual hurts, or you're compatible from that level. But then that creates or bring about a lot of baggage into the relationship. So you ask, for example, how a person can know that they're compatible, or whether they're the ones that are ready. More often than not, most people think they're ready. Most people feel they're ready for anything. They think that. But then when you dig deeper, as you guys here will tell you, you realize that there's so much baggage that a lot of times people are maneuvering to please a person, because, as Sinclair said, they don't want to lose them. So they lose themselves in trying to keep that person around. I have a situation here where the guy finds himself, it's difficult to stay. He wants the person, he loves, they have this chemistry, but he finds it difficult to stay away from the other side. Apparently he's attracted to girls and so on. But knowing yourself means that you have to accept that you have challenges, or you have weaknesses, or, well, to be honest, you are not perfect. And we always say that is why it's important for people, when they get into start a relationship or whatever, they look to deal with expectations. They look to be honest about themselves and so on. But a lot of times people are not honest. People are not open. People, as we say, we got the physical. We got I love her. I really can't do it for this person. And what we do, we mix up infatuation with love. So you saying I can't do it for her. That's where you see some people get violent and want to beat the ladies or whatever when they think or women get vicious and do cruel things to men because they can't see the person with nobody else because they're so infatuated more so than love because the love thing can't be that kind of way. How you can love somebody and then want to destroy them, right? So boy, that question in itself, would be that's a program in itself because there's so many things that persons would have to do to really be honest about themselves. And a lot of times people don't want to go and investigate that. They would not want to go to St. Clair or pastor or myself and say, look, let me really deal with myself. I've had a couple of young people that have done that recently, and I saluted them because they wanted to check on themselves first before they get into any relationship. But a lot of us don't do that. I want her, I want him, and then we try to manufacture or maneuver ourselves to look like if we are compatible. But deep down, we have a lot of issues. So you go into a marriage or whatever relationship, and you have to die to yourself or get real cruel to fight for your position. So that's a lot of stuff.
If you don't mind, Bishop Edson, for those that came in late, could you read over the difference between chemistry and compatibility, please? I don't know if
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to ask him to do that.
Okay, so when we talk about compatibility, we're talking about the similarity between people. I just want to pull up what I would have shared, and similarity between people in different areas. So, like for example, the life priorities are the same, the preferences are the same in terms of the activities that people like to do and so on. So they kind of like similar things. The beliefs are the same. So for example, you will have two people that love the Lord. They go to the same church, they have the same theological beliefs, they have the same type of level in faith, not quite perfect agreement, but they work well with one another. Sometimes, and also the values, right? So all of those are areas in which people can be compatible or similar. So you're looking at the similarities between people in all the major areas of life. Then when we talk about chemistry, chemistry is that automatic emotional connection that we have with people. It is something that happens, as Sinclair said, it happens spontaneously, it happens naturally. It's not something that we create. So sometimes you get this warm, fuzzy feeling being around certain kinds of people. You enjoy their company, you like them, and you can't explain why you're attracted to them or why you like them, right? So chemistry can lead to, if it's a physical relationship outside the context of marriage, it can lead to explosive sex because you are just biologically attracted to each other. And so those things um, would be what chemistry and compatibility would be all about.
I like what Bishop Edson said. He didn't just say sex; he said explosive sex. Not just sex, explosive sex. So the thing about you had asked the question earlier, Marissa. I'm sure many people are thinking about that. Like I'm in a marriage and I recognize we're not as compatible as we used to be. Chemistry, as I said, may or may not be temporal because some people still have that ongoing looking at the girl or looking at the guy and still have that fuzzy feeling. Some people might have been temporal because the things have changed and sometimes emotions override that thing. So Jessica Carr and Bishamar used the analogy of a car. I think was very good. That looking at the car, the exterior of the car, the is the chemistry, the function of the car is the compatibility. I have added to that the fuel to the car is the love languages, and as I said, the respect and love. But maybe there's a difference for some, and many people, honestly, less. I mean, they've measured this less than 10% in marriages are definitely have that strong compatibility and strong chemistry. Yeah, because many of us get together based on what we want and not what we need. And Bishop Mark said it very well just now. Was that sometimes we put on a front. We're not our honest self. We're not our authentic self, and we do that because we want to be in a relationship. Yeah. So likewise, let's say that your true self is orange. Yeah, but you put on red because of it close. I mean, and you track another red, but then you always have to hold back on the orange. And some people honestly do not even know themselves. A lot of people believe that they know themselves. And we touched on that the last time. Many times I'm going through tests of persons who say, "Oh, I'm an extrovert," or "I'm an introvert," and they honestly believe that they are. They're not lying until they're tested, and they're like, "Oh shoot, I thought honestly that I was this, or I thought honestly I had that type of personality," until they're tested. And I go through several tests of persons to show them where they can have challenges and by extension learning. So if you have low compatibility, the truth of the matter is that marriage of mature people, which is Mark book, working at marriage, or marriage is hard work, which is part two of that book. But the thing what we got to be building, that whole thing in a relationship, you have to come in to look to build. It is not, it's a journey, it's not a destination. Yeah, because if you don't choose to love a person, there always will be emotional times where you might not feel connected to that person. Right? There's seasons, it might be days, maybe weeks, sometimes it might go through a year where you might not feel connected to that person. And if we're always about our emotional self being connected and touched, and I don't feel love, and that is based on our decision to be in a relationship, that's many times people fall out of that relationship. So one things I look for is when people are bendable, we talk about having the ability to shift from one place to the other depending on what's needed in that relationship. They're going in a relationship to learn. People that are willing to learn, make the healthiest relationship despite the compatibility. People that look at developing themselves as a person. So you learn to the person recognize, oh shoot, we are not compatible in this area. They said, I might not be an outgoing person, but I'm willing to go out, every once in a while because that's something that my spouse likes or person likes. Likewise, I might be a person like to go out a lot, might recognize, oh shoot, it's causing a problem. So I might cut down on that a little bit. But by the time people hear this whole thing of compromise, it sounds like slavery, it sounds like oppression, it sounds like, but we compromise in all areas of our lives for our children, for our family, for our work, for church. But somehow for marriage, we want everything to happen organically. And some people, it does, but it's only a small percentage if they do things the correct way, if they're healthy. But for most of us, we have to sit down, look at our differences, recognize that we are damaged and the areas we are damaged, and look to improve in our hurt areas. But mainly we want people to be fixed. We want fixed people. As I said, my number one thing is people being single because it's not about fixing anyone, it's about fixing me. And if we learn to fix ourselves, allow ourselves to be healed, most relationships are healed. And that's my number one tool, healing yourself, and the relationship heals from there.
As you're sharing, it's that honesty that you must have with yourself, because compatibility will cause you to look at the areas that you have a deficit in, not only your partner but also you. Because it's only after, if I look at myself, you look at your relationship and you or the relationships that you might have been in, and you recognize this didn't work, that didn't work over here, this I don't like, that I like. And these are the areas where you say to yourself, this works. Because and especially if as I say, when you get older, okay, so I don't like rice and peas, I only like cuckoo. So you know that your preference is cuckoo versus rice and peas. So I'm saying that as we get through with ourselves, we are better able to say, okay, this is what will work for me. As I say, sometimes the deal breakers, and this is what won't work for me. And if you're honest with yourself, then you can say, this relationship compatibility level, we will always be in conflict in this area. And if you recognize that you will always have conflict in this area, then you will say either we're going to work at it to resolve it, or you're going to abandon it. I'm talking about depending on what level of the relationship you're at. I'm not talking about marriage necessarily, but in the getting to know you stage, it is important to pay attention to all of these things, because I find sometimes we tend to want to focus or assume that, okay, God will heal us and we'll be able to um, have a healthy marriage, have a healthy relationship. But there are times when it needs more work than that. You always hear Minister Sinclair say that it needs more work than that when you look at your real issues so you can experience compatibility. So we talk about compatibility. What about chemistry? Because chemistry is also necessary. Do you always need chemistry in a relationship, Minister Sinclair? Do you always need chemistry in a relationship?
It's a
Or is
good
it only
thing.
for certain
Chemistry.
types of relationship?
No, chemistry is a good thing. If you got chemistry in a relationship, it is that thing that causes you to. Uh, One things I tell people: if a person get with their car, especially a guy, if it's a guy get with his car and he walks away from it, he doesn't look back at it. Is a functional tool for him. Most guys just sit down and look at their cars like, yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? It just, despite whatever it is, whether man really likes his car. The same thing in a relationship, you know what I mean? There are times you just look at the spouse and just who the person is, you just have that thing. Is there something that, that connect you together? And sometimes most people get married not the person that they have chemistry with because, as I said earlier, something person you have chemistry with is not healthy. You could be connected to a person and you know them. I mean, like you could be yourself and that, but it would not be in a healthy marriage. That's why to me you can't go with the chemistry because your connection may be from an unhealthy space. You know what I mean? Yeah, where you're damn, where you're damn self. You can remember the person that you met, when you were a teenager. That's why some people actually, when they get older, they go back to that teenage lover because they're trying to get back that chemistry and many times it doesn't work because you don't recognize you've grown, you've matured, you're in a different space, but they're looking for the chemistry because they met that person, they were young, they had sex all day, da 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 da. But that is not the only component. So the chemistry may still be there. It's like the person on Facebook, we start back talking, it seemed like, old fire sticks easy to catch back. However, there are more to you than just that. So most people do not, I'm serious, most couples do not have strong chemistry. Most married people don't have strong chemistry. Yeah, and I say it doesn't exist, but a lot of married people do not have strong chemistry in the relationship. And that's
So,
statistically proven.
so again, Pastor Bino, chemistry, because someone must message me about what you said about how you
Yeah, well,
describe chemistry and so forth.
yeah. Okay. I was there laughing at what Sinclair was saying, in terms of how the chemistry can wane, but that is so very true. There are so many factors that can happen. You can have a lot of problems in life. You could have the challenges of raising children, and the conflict in the marriage where you're quarreling and you're disagreeing and that sort of thing. And then the marriage can get a bit stale because everything is same old and predictable. So when people get to that midlife stage of life, that's often where you tend to get certain affairs happening because the chemistry in the marriage is gone. So people look for that old flame that they used to have when they were younger. And as Sinclair said, they look for and the explosive sex that they used to had and used to enjoy, and they begin to magnify the good things about them, about what used to happen. Yeah, in marketing, there's something called cognitive dissonance. You kind of look at you look at what you have now, and you start to look at the negative side of what you have. So you look at the wife that you have now, and all of a sudden she's not as attractive, she's not as pretty, she put on some weight, that sort of thing. So you start to look at all the negative side, and then you start to look at the positives now of a previous relationship that you had. All of a sudden this person looks so sweet, so wonderful, so nice, so pleasant, and so on. Yeah, so that can happen. One of the challenges though is how do we build back up chemistry? Is it possible to build it back up? Is it possible to cultivate those romantic feelings again? Is it possible to stir up the flames and be so excited about seeing each other, having that warm, fuzzy feeling, getting back to, it might not be as explosive as what it used to be, but it could be at the level that everybody is fully satisfied. And it's not, and a reason I say it might not be as explosive, you might get a little older, and certain things you might not be able to do that you would like to do, and that's certain. But anyhow, moving beyond that, um, how do we cultivate that chemistry again? Yeah, so chemistry is that emotional connection that we have with people. It's that spark, it's that fuzzy feeling, it's that fondness. It's that I am excited when I see you. You make me laugh. I feel special. I get all these tingly feelings. I can't get enough of you. I must see you. It's kind of like when you're first in love. you want to be around the person 24/7. You want to be talking to them constantly. You want to hear them on the phone. Like when my wife and I, when we first connected as teenagers, because we were teenagers when we connected, we will always be on the phone, and she'll be on the phone, talking to me and whispering, and everybody will be wondering what she's saying. But we would just be there talking for hours, and I would be always at her house, she would be always at my house, and that was just ongoing. That was how it was. Chemistry. Yeah, you got that connection with people. You just want to be around the person all the time. You can't get enough of the person. So when you have that, that's chemistry in a picture.
Especially with the explosiveness. Wow. Chemistry, boy. Let me tell you, I sense that there was some very, and probably still is, I can sense that chemistry where you and your wife is concerned. Even though, you're getting on in age, it may not be as explosive, but but yes.
But Bishop Bar, if my wife could hear you, she would smile, because she not too far away from me. She's at work, working from home, so she's
Uh-huh.
a few meters away from me. But
Okay.
if she had to hear what you were saying, she would be smiling.
All I hear
Wow.
saying is, thank God I get children. They host before fireworks. I mean, explosive, boy. Ain't just good and great. It's explosive. Let me
Explosive,
tell
man. Let
you.
me tell you.
The man
Let
gonna
me
be
tell you.
rethinking. I'm like, man.
but it seems to be coming from experience. So we have to believe that there's a lot of fireworks in that location. Oh yes.
Oh, I thought you were saying. I'm glad that Bishop Edison is very open with sharing, because like that, because I think sometimes we think that as you get older in relationships, there is a reality that something changes. Something changes as you move through the relationship. So it's to understand the stages that you are at, and as you understand the stages, you better know how to improve. So you understand that your chemistry is waning in a particular area. So if your chemistry is waning in a particular area, does not mean that your compatibility has to go. And because your compatibility is also um, tried and tested, if I can use that, because as you go through the various challenges, maybe health, financial, those changes, as your compatibility is tested, you're better able to still keep your relationship alive. I think one of my challenges is that people think that as soon as you hit a pothole, the relationship is all over. The compatibility has gone through the door. And I think that, as Bishop Mark always says, relationships are for the mature. These relationships are for the mature who understand that because we have an issue, our compatibility is affected by the way we communicate. Our compatibility is kept healthy by the way that we can be honest, true, and respectful in the process. That is where we lose it. When you think that, okay, because your wife has said something or your husband has said something, you find the most derogatory way to respond to them, and that affects the whole chemistry, that affects the whole compatibility element, and then the relationship starts to nosedive, and it continue to nosedive because nobody's going to pull that hand, break up, and say, you know what, let's get back on track. But it's really about two people understanding this, not just one party, but also two people understand that this is an area that we need to work on. And amazing enough, we can get so comfortable in our marriages that we forget that we need to still work on these areas.
Yeah, but I
I
think,
still think
yeah,
that. Go
I
ahead,
think
Bishop.
you're absolutely correct. In order for, you see, you have to come to the realization up front that the fizziness is, you see, the chemistry is important, but as you get into the relationship, as you grow together, especially if you're prepared to work and there's mutual respect, you are very, very, very correct there, Marissa. But when you have to come to that point where when you were like you heard Pastor Bino said just now that when he and his wife were starting out, they want to be around one another. I am sure that now they're married. As for me and my wife, and I'm sure it's again, but that there are times where we still see our husbands, our wives, and they still look to us all right, despite our children and things. They still look good physically. We still enjoy sex with them, but there are times too we will not be as touchy and as romantic as we were before because we got it 20 years, 20 something years. So there is a time where the chemistry will not necessarily disappear, but it will pan out, it will calm down. But what is always the thing that it should work on, in my humble opinion, is compatibility. Because a lot of times we, as I said before, we go through stuff and don't care how old we get. Listen, I will tell you, and I will tell you, and I will tell you, and Marissa, you can tell people that in the midst of relationship, don't care how long you're in the relationship, there are certain things that you will never be compatible with. But Sinclair was saying earlier, your wisdom says, look, I love this woman. I have mutual respect for him, or well, the husband for his wife, or wife for his and husband for the wife, or wife for the husband. That what we do, the love then should be able to, not the chemistry, not the fuzzy feelings, the love that we have now for the person should give us that ability to, instead of looking, as I say all the time, instead of looking to me and what I want, I look to give to what my partner requires. And if both are giving, compatibility will be strong because we will be making adjustments to accommodate. And accommodate is not a bad word. Accommodate our partner, that person that we say we love, that person that we have determined that we're going through this life with. What is so hard with taking back, giving them some of your space and vice versa for the compatibility to work? Because then it means that that fizziness will continue. Because as Sinclair was saying, if I don't like going out, but my wife like going to dinners and all of that, I can't stay home and say, cook, and then we have dinner. I have to say, listen, I will make some concessions and I will go, maybe twice a month. I'm not trying to get me to dinner every Sunday. But so you make those kind of concessions, and then that fizziness will not, because you got a reason to quarrel, you got a reason to fight, because hey, I can see my partner making the effort to become compatible with me.
And even they saying that too. One of the things they try to get people to understand is that this doesn't happen overnight. And Bishop Mara mentioned that in the 2 programs or 3 programs ago. Sometimes there may be small steps. There are things that I have no gain the benefit of in the marriage. It'll be 18 years in the marriage. So it didn't happen in year 2. It didn't happen in year 3. It didn't happen in year 4. It didn't happen in year 5. You know what I mean? It happened in year 16. It happened in year 14. It happened in 18 years of marriage. Right? So a lot of things people hear this and think, okay, let's have a discussion. Let's compromise. Haha. It doesn't happen overnight. There's some things that will change immediately. Some things that will take time. And I don't think that we have learned something called sacrifice and investment. Right? We think everything's supposed to happen like magic. Oh, here it is, love languages. Hold this. It doesn't, it is not that. It's not a powder you add to water and you have Kool-Aid. Yes. And what the 2 things, there are 4 things I look for is the same thing. I look for chemistry, compatibility, communication, and conflict. But out of those 4 things is conflict. The number one thing, for every time a couple hit inside of my room, how do they handle conflict? It tells me straight away if this couple has a high probability of being together or not being together. So maybe it's like, what are you looking for? How come you say that we shouldn't be together? Yeah, because they measure people based on their discussion, based on their differences. So I do stoke the fires because I want you to be able to show me and get rid of masks, because people lie. So I want to get rid of masks. I want to see how do you handle conflict, how do you handle differences. And there's some people that they argue about everything. You know what I mean? They say, oh, we made cross by Marissa at 9 o'clock on Wednesday. Oh, it wasn't 9 o'clock, it was 8:45. Like, seriously? I remember we stopped by Pastor Bino at 7, so like tell me da 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 da. And I mean they're gonna quarrel about 8:45 by 9 o'clock instead of the fact that they went by Marissa's house. Right? And there are people that they have to win every battle. And it's like this is crazy. You know what I mean? This is a salvation issue. There's not a financial issue, but they're always in this thing. They're going to battle, and some people they cannot see themselves. And the problem is that everybody expect another person to change, and I get people say forget the other person because everybody want to do this kumbaya thing. Well, if I change, you should change. I should get 50%. You get 50%. I tell them it's not a 50-50. It's 100. That's it. If you're not going to give 100, that's it. Forget it, because you're, as Bishop Mark says, some things a person give you 100, but it will feel like 20%. And that's something people don't get. That a person give you 110, but because of who you are, is not going to feel like 100. I be saying, why give it 100 or I give it 75? They should meet me halfway. Sometimes they make more than half. It's just they don't have the skill set. They don't have the understanding. They don't have the ability. And I go to people like them and said, you need to deal with yourself first. And two things I can tell you that shows up a lot right now, and it means about this whole thing here. Two, there's a less psychological thing happening in our society. One, women have too much male energy in relationships. Yeah. And men having not the ability to fight. They're very thin skinned. Men have not learned how to fight. They've given up on fighting. This whole thing of at school, don't fight, and both people get sent home. I'm not talking about fighting, but we've not learned to fight. We've not learned to deal with rejection well. Anything that looks like a hump in the road is a mountain. So I go into the hills, I go back to the forest. So, but women don't come with this masculine energy. So when it comes to conflict, you can have chemistry, it's going to be crazy. You know what I mean? Compatibility is still going to be crazy because conflict, I think, is the number one thing. How do I handle the feeling as though my interpretation of a person not understanding me, my interpretation of not being heard? Am I easily emasculated? Because if I don't make definitions of man, I can easily feel like, oh, she emasculate me. I don't feel that is crazy. You know what I mean? Nobody can make you not feel like a man. That'd be something in your head. That is something that you have to deal with. So yes, we're talking about compatibility and chemistry. We really digging deep. And I tell people that listen to this program, share, because I'm telling you, people pay for this information. You all need to start this stuff, like legitimately. This chemistry and compatibility is very, very high on the caliber. But conflict, I guarantee you, and having a healthy person to be in conflict, I think is even more important.
You see, go ahead. I won't let Bishop Edison jump in there, but I want to say this. Interestingly enough, one of the things I've learned is, as you sit here, we all learn. We all learn from the knowledge that is shared by each other, as you, our listeners, and our viewers do too. One of the interesting things that I've learned is you see compatibility, people ignore that aspect in relationships because we think more with our emotions. But as Bishop Mark said, your compatibility will determine the longevity of your relationship. Minister Sinclair just also said that conflict, your ability to deal with conflict will affect your compatibility levels. And it goes back to some of the root issues. If you do not know how to handle conflict, you destroy relationships. And I think that people need to understand that. So you're not going to sit down. Sometimes you have to see, we always say, is it going to matter in 6 months? Then it's not really that important. People can use it as probably a scope. It's not always a healthy thing. But are we arguing about if it was a quarter to 9 versus 9 o'clock? Is that really a major issue? Are we going to argue about the fact that you said boy instead of bake? Those kind of things that I call it majoring in minors. Those kind of things that are unhealthy because there's another root issue behind the scene. It's not really that issue about the quarter to 9 or 9 o'clock. It's about somebody losing control, somebody thinking that they need to be in control, somebody who thinks. And Sinclair, there's something quite interesting you said there about manhood. I think sometimes so many men don't know. I'm trying to get my legs. Don't know how to sometimes be the man that they're called to be, and sometimes women find themselves having to and I talk from my experience, having to assume sometimes both roles. Yes, we know that women can't be men and so forth, but if a man is not leading, somebody has to lead. Somebody's gonna have to lead. You just can't leave the boat there not being able to be rowed. And I think that because of that, not knowing who you are, not knowing how to manage the conflict, not knowing what direction we're going in our compatibility level, it becomes a major challenge for the relationships. And I think that we need to understand that conflict. I'm measuring that, and that's something that I've experienced recently in the past couple of months. If you don't know how to manage conflict, you destroy relationships and affects everything else. And sometimes what could, and then too, as Sinclair said, because people don't want to come to counseling, the situations are never ever resolved because their they live with their level of knowledge, if I can say that, based on how they were socialized. So mommy and daddy did it this way, so we must do it this way. When mommy and daddy probably not even in a healthy place either. So you take up that unhealthy method of navigating conflict or dealing with issues or looking at relationships, and then it becomes your norm and it's not a healthy norm. I said a mouthful there. I know I did. I know I did. But some interesting stuff there.
Well, Marissa, I think you were going good. The whole thing about what Minister Sinclair talked about, the whole aspect of conflict and how conflict shapes relationship. People have to learn how to fight, because the thing is there will always be some kind of disagreements in relationship. The most healthy relationship you can think of will have some area of conflict, but what makes healthy relationships different is that they work to resolve the conflict. They look for the biblical principles, and because they are governed by the spirit of love, they don't remain disagreed with each other. They'll find a way to reconcile. They'll find a way to talk it through. They'll find a way to get counseling. They will do what they have to do in order to strengthen the relationship, and I think that's good. But in terms of looking at the areas of compatibility and chemistry and how we could improve, because I think every relationship needs to have some form of assessing the relationship. How do we know how we're going? The assessment could be internal, the assessment could be external, but I think there's certain things that we need to do. So for me, I would just want to give a couple tips, in terms of rekindling the chemistry and the compatibility. One, I think it's important to pray. I think people minimize the importance of understanding the spiritual dynamic. But spiritual intimacy is important. Having that healthy relationship with God, that personal relationship with God, committing the elements of your relationship to God. All that is important. You really need to understand that this is a very deeply spiritual thing. People don't even understand some things that you got to get into spiritual warfare, because there are forces of evil that want to destroy your marriage, want to destroy your relationship. So you have to cover the relationship, you have to cover your family. Yeah. So that's important. And then I think sometimes counseling is going to be important. Some relationships do need that external counseling, where you need somebody to evaluate. You need somebody to help you understand the marriage, understand where it's going, where it's at, help you with areas to improve, help you to improve your ability to resolve conflict, your ability to deal with certain issues. I think that counseling can help. Um, Talking, even taking a Christian book and saying, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's look at some of the concepts. Let's talk about them. What do you think about this and that kind of thing. Taking the principles from Men on Monday and not using them to beat up the other person, because some people would say, well, you hear what Minister sorry, you hear what Minister Sinclair said, you hear what Bishop Mark said, this is what you gotta do. So then you take it and you beat them. You flog the man or you flog the woman. Right. But sometimes you need to talk. You need to find out where you're at. The whole thing about understanding one another's love language, doing things together, spending time together. And the thing about compatibility that we need to understand, compatibility doesn't mean that you are exactly similar. Okay. Sinclair is extroverted, Donna is not. Yeah. So compatibility doesn't mean that Donna must become an extrovert like Sinclair. That would not make sense. Compatibility means that they are somewhat different, but they blend together. They blend together. They understand how to make it work. Yeah. So my wife is not to be a carbon copy of me. That's why sometimes it gets annoying when you see some couples and every time, oh gosh, the God dress alike, the God dress in the same colors, the God do. I mean, come on. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing.
That's their
It is a good
thing.
thing.
That's their
But I just think, oh, yeah, it might be their thing, but I think some
Yucky,
people take it
yucky,
overboard.
yucky.
Yeah, some people take it overboard. I mean, I've dressed in complementary colors with my wife, but if I can do it every single time we go, yeah, we gotta wear the same kind of t-shirt, the same uniform going out. I mean, some people have to say, Marissa, that's their thing. But that is not compatibility. That's surface compatibility. Yeah, that's compatibility in the externals. What you're looking for is compatibility where it matters in terms of the values and so on. Yeah, but and sometimes let me get back to the explosive sets because Bishop Mark and Minister Sinclair made fun with me on that one. But again, what are some of the things that you can do to bring out some a little more explosive energy in the sex life? Yeah, don't take it for granted. Don't take the woman for granted. Don't take the man for granted. Is there any preparation that you could do? How can you prepare the parlor, Lady Marissa, as you would say, right? How can you do that? So the idea is you got to do some stuff to make things happen. Lady Anne talked about date nights. You gotta have a little time where you and your wife go together, where you hold hands here and do a little something there, and have a little fun. So we gotta bring back that fun to the relationship. Yeah, the chemistry might decline, but it doesn't have to wane completely. And I think that chemistry must still be there. So you got some older people. You look at the way how they look at the wife, or how the wife look at them, and how they tease one another, and that sort of thing. It shows that the chemistry is still there, but the chemistry grows, it matures. It is not so much based on looks and that kind of thing, because wrinkles will set in, a little weight might come on, different things, but it's based on a kind of intimacy where we just love to be with each other. Yeah, and people grow old together, and it's beautiful when you see some people growing old together and they still enjoy being with each other. It's still like being around each other. They still pull at one another from time to time and joke around and that sort of thing. You see that the chemistry is there, but it will evolve. It's not going to be like what it used to be. It is going to be something different, but it will still be chemistry.
Just want to quickly jump in there. Could we probably possible continue next because there's a chart that we would like to look at, bit of compatibility. I like some of the tips that Bishop Bino suggested. One of the things that we could look at, if possible, is that because when you first meet a person, there is the possibility that we might be in a monogamous relationship. So that is exciting goal towards. Then there's the possibility of us being engaged. That is a goal. Then there's the whole thing of being the wedding, and then there's the marriage. So after the end that, all of a sudden, like we're here, and there's nothing else to look forward to. And all of a sudden, that emotional energy is gone. It's like we're here, we've achieved the girl. What else? You know what I mean? So the guy is like, I know, I thought I buy everything, so I thought there's it. And the girl's looking for something else in that relationship. And that was said that unfortunately, what a lot of unfortunately our society has been raised a lot of guys not to fight, not to be able to push forward, not to be able to deal with disappointments and rejection. So in the relationship, there's not that ability to fight for or to try to find out how to get things done. You ever hear Bishop Mark talk about getting up every day, seeing how to please a person? Yeah. But you see, as I said to us, I mean, and that's easy for Bishop Mark. Because as I said, if you look at most of us here, we are guys that fight for things. Most guys have not been taught how to fight. And that shows up into the relationship also. You know what I mean? You got grown men still playing, games and still gaming. Not probably you gaming, but gaming can be majority of your thing at 40. You know what I mean? You just can't come from work and just go straight to gaming, but that is something that exists in our relationships today, 2022, where 40-year-old men are gaming and the wife is like doing all the things. And so those are things that are not called out. You know what I mean? Men are not taught to fight because once again, they were taught to stay home, stay in bedroom and play game. They were a good boy, but that doesn't make a good man. And as I said earlier, the whole masculine energy that men don't want a guy. Men don't want to be involved with another guy. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, because as Mary said, because all this fight, or when we get in a relationship, we don't want to be in a relationship fighting. So especially get mature, as I tell women, But when we get 45, honestly, and we've not been married, the reduction of us being married, gets a little thinner, right? Because you're 45, 50, and you already made your own money, got your own house, is like marriage is not on the top of your list anymore. You know what I mean? So the exchange rate is different. The tolerance level is a lot less. So the barter between 20, 25 and 45, 50 is totally different. The age range is different on our compatibility and our compromise in the relationships. So all those are things that need to be looked at. Um, and as Bishop Biden was talking about just now, although things wane, we could also look for things to do if you are in that relationship, as I said, and you find that the chemistry has gone down. You have to work at it because different things could happen. Mommy could have died, and the guy might not have been sensitive enough when that period comes through. Instead of holding on 6, 10 years, let's have a discussion, get those emotions out. Let's see if we can reconnect. Many people use conflict to disconnect. I tell people we should use conflict to push us closer together. So instead of walk away, shutting down, go in the bedroom, shut off sex, no, stay present. Same as the guy, you don't shut down, go to the television, go into your game computer, no, stay present. So instead of conflict pushing us apart, we should use conflict to fuse us together.
Some great nuggets here. As I heard, I saw and they're saying sharing some of the ways to reconnect: games, relaxing, vacations, traveling together, and as Nikita said, some great relationship goals being shared here this morning. So we're going to continue next week. Compatibility versus chemistry. We're going to look at that chart next week. We're going to delve into it. Make sure you follow and like us. So hit that like button, like our live stream, and also like our page. Hit that button where you follow us so that when we go live, you are aware that we've gone live and you do not miss these great nuggets being shared here today. I'm telling you, people pay for this information here. They do. How do I get my relationship better? Compatibility versus chemistry. And understanding why I need chemistry and where I need chemistry and why I need compatibility and how compatibility will cause my relationship to grow better. So tell your spouse, tell that boyfriend, that girlfriend, that young man, that young woman, listen to this next week. We have to listen to this next week. So those of you who are with us, just hit that like button and follow us so that you're aware of all that's going on. That has been today's edition of Men on Monday. Don't forget that Bishop Bino has his book out today, Bishop Bino. It's available on Amazon, The 8 Success Factors for a Healthy Life. And we've been sharing some of these factors with you right here on our Men on Monday show. And of course, don't forget to check out the folks over at Healthy Cottage. Until, God bless you. Thank you very much to our gentlemen who've been with us this morning. Thank you very much for sharing with us, and have a good one. That has been today's edition of Men on Monday.